out to the winos.
Yo, welcome back to Wook Plus. I am Weekend Wook, joined by Kev the Great Went, T, and Mr. Lo Faber of godstreetwine fame. How you doing, everybody? How you doing, Lo? Welcome.
Doing pretty good.
Very excited to have you join us tonight and hang out and co-host. And
you're looking good too, Lo. It's good to see you, man.
You are looking good.
I got this new.
I don't get that you're 58 and I'm gonna be 54 sooner than later, and I'm completely gray, and you are just still man.
And you look like you should be 58, Kev, and Lo looks like he's 54.
Exactly.
Kev looks like 158.
Right? I think it's the music. The music.
What a
keeps
good
Lo
day.
young. The music keeps him young.
And you've had more stress in your life than me.
Actually, that's one of the things I was going to bring up is coping mechanisms for stress, because I'm like rediscovering, I don't want to get into what stress, but like I've rediscovered a very high level of stress that I'd forgotten for some time, and now I'm figuring out ways to cope. And like I have like hobbies and shit, like little painting and tie-dyeing and shit, but like you seem to have a good handle on stress. How do you cope? How do you handle things?
I don't think that I do, actually.
Right? It's a tough battle.
I think the hair color is just one of those. Look, I'm 5'5", so I got a bad deal there. So I'll take all the hair.
Genetic lottery, right?
There you go. I didn't realize you were pretty much my height. Good. Well, we can see eye to eye.
Yeah, brothers.
I've been coping. I know, and you're going to shoot me for saying this, Tim. I've discovered Blue Sky again. I joined it years ago, but everybody exodus from the bad site, which is what it's referred to now,
right,
to Blue Sky. And I look at all these people, and it's just everybody talking about Fish or Disco Biscuits or whatever band. I throw like random stuff out. I was talking about Al Stewart the other day. I was like, what's a better song, Year of the Cat or Time Passages?
Kev, I think the moral of the story here is don't ever judge it too early, because you were the biggest stand that's like, I'm never going over there.
Yeah,
I can't leave Twitter. I love Twitter. And now you're like, I like Blue Sky. Yeah. So never judge it until you like.
So what is better? What is better, Year of the Cat or Time Passages?
Oh, he was setting up his own question.
No, I'm not setting it up. I want to know what Lo thinks, I guess, more than anything, because Tim's going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I know Lo knows what I'm talking about.
What? Sorry, say it again.
Al Stewart, Year of the Cat or Time Passages?
No idea.
Do you know this? You don't know him either. You're killing me. You guys are killing me. All right.
No, I have no idea. Sorry.
Good, we're all on the same page. And Kev's on his whole other page. A whole different chapter.
Kev entered that conversation so confidently, as if he had like planned it. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna open strong. I got this good question lined up."
I figured since.
Do you want to get into the set list?
I want to wait before we get into it too much. I wanted to ask. Well, I see it down there, godstreetwine and update. But I wanted to ask you, Lo, how was it being back with the band? How was everything? Like, you guys feel good? Like, was it awesome? The shows, like.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that, by the way, and it was really amazing.
Yeah, it looked like it. It looked awesome. I got to tell you, I was very jealous of everyone.
So there's just 4 shows on this last run, and just the stars aligned. The rooms were great. The sound was great. The people were great. There was no weird, fucked up shit happening in any aspect of it. And then on the 4th night of 4, which was at this little place in Asbury Park, New Jersey, called the Wonder Bar.
I love that place.
Where I had never played before, but it was a wonderful venue. And there was just, this is going to sound so cheesy, honestly, but it was very real. What I'm going to tell you, that the whole show was just like the most effortless show I've ever played. There was like no trying involved. And then in the set break, I was talking to the other guys, and they were all feeling the same thing. It's like we're just like up there. We're not even thinking about what we're doing. It's just happening, and the crowd. It was just, I've almost never felt that way in like 30
You
years.
sounded like you never missed a beat from back in the old days. And I only got to see the night before because my dumbass couldn't get up to New Jersey, but you busted out Stupid Hat. You did April Rain into Weird Dream. I mean, your set list choices were some of the, I guess, were harder to play maybe, or just more interesting.
No, that's definitely that's right. And the main thing that we did, the biggest thing we did was we busted out this epic thing I wrote called Maniloking. And that's something that since you guys are fish oriented, I was thinking earlier about Maniloking and how it was very much influenced by Reba when I first heard Reba. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the fish song that had the biggest impact on me. And I wanted to write something that was that epic and that sort of multi-layered.
Right.
And when did that come together? Was that written? Did you write that recently?
In Maniloking?
Yeah.
It was in 92.
Oh.
Wow.
It's their petrichor, Tim. It's kind of their petrichor. Think of it that way.
It's 17 minutes long. It's got like really 4 different
movements,
parts.
Right? Yeah, so fantastic.
And and the third part is really fucking hard to play, and therefore we avoided it in all the reunion shows. And finally, we were like, "This, it's time. It's time. Let's get this shit together."
What went into the set list choices? You had more shows. What you did 4 this time. So did you say, hey, we're going to dig deep? We're going to pull out Buttons and Leslie. I don't think you'd done that for a while.
A lot of it was requests, just going on Facebook and let's play what people want to hear. I mean, these people are supporting this thing at this point, which we never even expected. So and we'll each put in our own requests. Like Aaron, John, what if there's a particular tune they want to do, but they just go in the basket with all the other requests.
Whose idea was Limbo?
Was what?
Sitting here in Limbo.
Oh, that was just on the moment.
Right. It was fantastic. I loved it. I was like, good for you guys.
Yeah, the first night so the encores we'll just like go no plan. It will really like. So the first night we called Simple Twist of Fate, which maybe we played in 30 years ago one time or something. And sitting.
They get sorry, when the song busts out after not playing it for that long, does it resemble like closely the original version? Because it's like, I don't know if it's like you're playing a note for note, but like I imagine that there's like a new life to it, and it kind of would like morph into something new, or does it just fall right in, like there's no difference from the last time?
I think it's like Simple Twist of Fate is a song that just everyone knows so well, and we all know not only the Dylan version but the Jerry version,
a
few other versions. And
do you lean more to Jerry version, I guess, because it's full band than just a single outtake, a studio thing?
Yeah, I mean, I lean to the first Jerry Garcia live album, with I think is just called Jerry Garcia Band.
Yeah,
it has Simple Twist of Fate and Dear Prudence, and it's so many. That album, The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, with that really long, slow Milton Seal solo, and that album is just really a kind of touchstone for me. But Fate, I mean, I play it with my band down here in New Orleans, and it's just
Reggie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like an open canvas where you can do it in so many different ways, and it allows people to go different directions.
Tell Reggie he should come talk to me sometime.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure he'd love to. actually.
Tim's like, who's Reggie? I don't know who Reggie
Hey,
is.
well, by the fourth night, do you think that you guys were feeling that way just because like of how the previous 3 nights had gone, or like was it kind of just with everything that's happened, like being back together and everything, or what do you think caused that like to feel that way, especially since the whole band felt that way? It's kind of a unique feeling that you guys kind of all locked in together and felt that way. And
Yeah.
what do you think it was from? Like just that, and does that make you want to play more now? Like did you guys get done with that and be like, we need to
move Tomo back?
I think I think we're
Move out to
all
him.
into playing more
yes.
than we have. You know, it's just really a question of
The West Coast wants you.
Yes,
The
we
West
do.
Coast.
We need you.
the West Coast is just, you know, it's probably costs us more money and we probably make less money. So it's
Money.
a little bit dicier of a proposition business
Can we
wise.
fly Tomo east instead of west?
Like
Yeah, right, that way. I'll make you a deal. You can do New Orleans and Colorado. I can probably make it out to there. You can do those shows and not have to come all the way out.
Dude,
west.
Colorado is a gold mine. 4 shows: Fort Collins, Boulder, Denver, and then what's that place down there? Colorado Springs, or maybe.
Yeah. Well, we definitely talked about it. We're definitely trying to get it together.
That's awesome, though. I'm glad you guys have that. Like, you know, you still want like that after those 4 shows. It sounds like everything went so well that I'm excited to hear that you guys had that, you know, that unique feeling and that you want to play more, because I can't get enough of.
We love it. And we will do some promo in a little bit, but let's talk about fake Jerry. Did everybody get to read the article? I mean, come on. This is weird shit. This is like hologram taken to another level.
We'll set it up for us. Tell us what the article is saying.
Well, apparently Jerry Garcia's estate and 11 something, whatever they're called, have done a Jerry Garcia voice. And they're going to license it out so Jerry could sell Mitsubishis or Subarus or whatever. I want Jerry to say, I'm a musician, not a fucking brand, is what I'm going to try to make it say. But
can they license it for commercial purposes like that? Or I thought it was like to have audiobooks or
that's what I thought it was too. I thought it was more for like audiobooks and like
somebody's going to pay to have Jerry read Phil Lesh's book, which would be weird as shit.
Yeah.
Well, in a couple of years, they could just have Phil Lesh's AI voice read Phil Lesh's book. So
I don't know. I feel like the commercial thing is certainly like a possibility, because his estate did the remember the gold jacket with the golf thing like last year or 2 years ago, and they like AI'd him into like
they did a hand with a cut off finger to hold your guitar. You could like screw it into the wall and it had a missing finger.
Yeah,
so
if there's money to be made there, I mean, but like I don't know. I also get weird about that too, like telling people, "Oh, you're going to make money." Like that's what leaving his legacy to his family. Like it's not right. It's not going to strangers and like suits in a tower.
Jerry would hate the Jerry Garcia estate.
Yeah, but also like I'm sure if it's like supporting his family and shit, like. He would want that, right?
Yeah, well, you drop.
I would like if I were.
You
if I had
drop
something that my daughters could be, you know, well off and secure for the rest of their lives, I would want them to do it.
You do a Dick's Picks every 3 months, and people are going to pay $40 to get the record of Jerry eating beans and farting in '72 with somebody. You know, I mean, it's the way it's going to work, and that's how you do it, and you don't tarnish the legacy.
Well, I'm going to get access to his voice as soon as it's available and tarnish the shit out of it. He's going to narrate every Wook Plus promo. It's going to be a Jerry this week on Wook Plus.
Should have him do all the fisheries.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know, man. It's
weird. It's weird. Like it's a whole new world that is opening up with all that stuff. And like,
where are you on AI in general? How do you feel about the fact that the musician who does incidental music now or commercials is going to be cut out within a year or two?
Well, I hope that's not the case. I mean, I don't think listeners want to hear music that's not made by humans. One thing is that I think AI is just the continuation of a process that's been happening for a really long time, which is that it's easier to make records. We have so many tools, and they're so much more affordable than they used to be to make good sounding recordings. So to me, that puts a much bigger premium on what music really is anyway, which is live. You know,
I agree with that, yeah.
live music is not about to be replaced by AIs. I don't think people would show up for those
unless
shows.
you have a hologram Prince or Frank Sinatra or Tupac
but
or
that's
something.
even if that had a surge, it would feel like that would be a novelty thing and it would wear off. I agree with Lo. Like, there's something about the live music, real live music with real musicians.
You can't improv. AI can't improv.
Well, even if it could,
AI
I
can
still
never
don't think
find-
it has the emotion. Like, you're
Yeah.
right, it doesn't have that. But even if it could, I still don't. There's something human about it. Like, right, just knowing that it wasn't human would take away from it, make it feel empty.
And it's more than the music too. It's our physical presence in the same room. Like we all agreed remember COVID, when we were doing all that live streaming. I was doing a ton of live streaming, and I guess we're doing it right now, in fact. But,
It's
but
getting meta.
still, playing my guitar for people, it was a great way of connection during the pandemic, but it wasn't like being in the room. Everybody knew it, which is it's not the same. Playing music together live in a room is something human beings have done since we were living in caves. You know, this is
You
very
can smell each other.
Yeah.
I like when I'm at a show too, you could see the human influences coming through the playing. Like maybe I create narratives in my head that aren't real, but like, oh, I'll use Fish as an example, right? Because like that's kind of our thing. But I do this with other bands, like it's like, oh, Fishman's like fucking fired up today, like, and like I'll be like, oh, he must have woke up on the right side of the bed, or oh, there's a little anger, right? And
you
and
woke
like,
up lengthwise.
somebody said something to them as they're walking on stage and it didn't sit right, and there's a little angst. There's things that happen, like the butterfly effect throughout the day, that like just change the intonation or the touch on a note and changes the song. Even if it sounds almost the same, there's little things that happen that makes it different every time. And I love the realness of listening to music that way.
Absolutely. And I think that you probably are right in the nuances that you pick up on because of the number of shows that you've seen and your familiarity with it. And that also, it makes me think, whether it's Fish or the Grateful Dead, or even on a much, much smaller scale, God-Street-Wine, another big part of it is just the community of people that you're a part of. Right. There's a certain vibe.
Is that not politically correct anymore? Being winos?
Kevin's on fire tonight.
I know.
He's like a kid at Christmas.
I am. I love Lo. He's one of my favorite people to hang out with.
No, I agree with you though. That communal, the whole community aspect of it too. I don't know that you can have that without like the human part of it, right? Like, I don't know. I heard a quote once that really stuck with me. It's like, I don't want AI to do my art so I have more time to do dishes. I want AI to do my dishes so I have more time to do art.
There you go. Exactly.
Right. And like, there's a lot of things AI could be great for, but like, I feel like this push of using it for art and like entertainment and everything is the wrong way to go about it.
It's weird.
It's just so venture capitalists can put their kids through boarding school, That's Sorry, I'm more of a Marxist.
Is that BOREDING school? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
All right. Somebody doesn't like me. They want me muted.
Yeah, that was me, Kev.
You have a burner account? All
right, next topic. All right, this is not Goose. This is Townsend and Rick Rubin, and apparently they have a long-standing beef with each other. Kev, you want to tell us about this one?
Rick Rubin produced one of their albums, and Pete Townsend said he laid on the couch and yelled "next" the whole time. And he was like, somebody needs to slap him in the face. And I'm just like, we need more of this in rock and roll. This is what rock and roll is all about.
I'm not familiar. Does Rick Rubin have that kind of reputation, or like he's pretty popular, right?
I think that he does have that reputation, though. He's let the creative process flow. He's very namaste or whatever it is.
What was his on the first few Def Jam records? Instead of produced by Rick Rubin, he would put reduced by Rick Rubin.
Right.
Like that. Like he was all about getting out all the bullshit, get out the clutter. You know,
and I guess Pete didn't like that. Is that?
Well,
is that
I don't think that's the Rick Rubin of today's, but he's
Right.
produced a lot of different kind of artists, and
yeah,
I don't know.
I think Pete paid. I think that the Who paid him to show up, and he laid on the couch and yelled next.
Oh, Rick Rubin laid on the couch.
Yeah, I mean,
I misunderstood what Kev was saying entirely. Well, that's
what you thought it was. Pete Townsend laid on the couch,
right? Like being like all rock star. Like, I don't like this. I don't like what he's doing. I'm like, I guess he was kind of a diva, but shit. No, yeah, I mean, that makes more sense.
He would probably work like I do.
How's that?
I just feel like
I love to hear how you think of yourself.
What his main, I guess, thing is that ultimately you create art for yourself, not you don't think about the audience that's out there and who's going to consume it. You do it because it's true to what you do.
And you think that's Rick or Pete?
Yeah, that's Rick. That's what Rick says, and I believe that.
You know, I think Rick is not an artist. He doesn't play an instrument. He's never written a song.
He's a podcaster.
He's brilliant at what he does. He's a producer and an entrepreneur, kind of. Pete Townsend is like just a legend of the human race, and Pete Townsend has just. I don't think anyone has anything to teach Pete about creativity.
No.
Yeah, no, that's what's interesting, though. You know, when you have that kind of dynamic with an artist and a producer it's almost like it's almost like, how you have the suits that want to sell the albums and are like, oh, you have to put this track on the album because this will be the track that goes on the radio and will be popular. And like, you know what I mean? Like it's about that. And not necessarily
it's the hit.
Right. Like we want to get the hit, and the artist is like, well, I want to be creative and have this, this my art out there and I don't really, you want people to listen to it, but it's more about you expressing the art and getting it out there and hoping it latches onto somebody, or even if it doesn't catch mainstream, at least it catches a few people or inspires a few people or does what as an artist you want it to do. Whereas the producer or the suits are more like, no, we got to make money. We want to, obviously capitalize.
But there's something to be said about the role of the producer too. And I hate to be the dick because like we're obviously on the side of artists, but not every artist is Pete Townsend. I think the difference is there are some artists that benefit from somebody like Rick Rubin. And then there's other people like Pete Townsend who's like, want to slap Rick Rubin because you know what I mean. Like I think because there are artists that don't necessarily have the full picture.
And that's why you hire somebody like him when you're an artist to do that. And like when you're a Pete Townsend type, you
don't give a fuck. Yeah, I don't need you. I'm you're at such a level that it's like sit down.
You're like Kev could produce this album for us.
Right.
It's kind of weird that Pete Townsend would ever want to work with Rick Rubin, isn't it? Like, why?
It was probably the record company.
Yeah, it was probably forced on him, right?
Well, I really doubt that. I think it was more just like, okay, he's Rick Rubin. That's gonna, I think any artist, even if they're a living legend, will get insecure about, am I still relevant? Am I, are people still out
They're
there?
like, look what he did for Johnny Cash. We need to jump on board here.
But that's the wrong reason to go with a producer, right? You should go with them because you really you share a vision and you know already that you work well together. I had a terrible producer experience. I think I told you guys maybe about it. I've talked about it in interviews many times.
Who was that?
It,
Can we
it
name him by name? We'd be like, fuck
Yeah,
this
yeah,
kid.
no, I've told this many times. It's Jim Dickinson, and he was a legend. And the late Jim Dickinson, he passed away a number of years ago, and I love him to this day with all my heart because I learned a lot from him. But the actual experience of doing it, oh my God! and uh, uh, Jim made amazing records. He made so many legendary records, but we weren't just the right fit for him, and we were working at cross purposes. It was the first Geffen album, and in our minds, we were like this touring jazz influenced improvisational band that wanted to do cool stuff. In Jim's mind, we were gonna have a hit. This was like early 90s. So there's like, you got like Counting Crows and Matchbox 20 and all that kind of vibe. And Jim was like wanting to Jim
Spin Doctors, all that. It was the jam band movement.
Jim didn't want to be this cool alternative rebel guy. He wanted to have a hit and make a lot of money. Like people want to do
So
that.
what was the hit? What was the hit on the album in your mind? When you thought about it and you were like, all right, we need a hit, which song would you say would be the hit?
My judgment on that would have been completely untrustworthy anyway. And I knew that. And I didn't even know what a hit was. I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up listening to FM radio. But by the time I was playing in the jam band scene, like a hit, I'd be like, people listen to the radio now? I mean, so Nightingale, that was the song that right off the bat, the record company said, this is what we hear as being a radio song. And I was like, okay, I don't know, and to me, Nightingale was just a kind of half-assed cop of 1999 Prince.
Right.
Which
about your favorite place, about something that was fundamental in your development, though, right?
Well, yeah, and also about King Lear, which is also something that has always been fundamental to my
ear. Didn't he cut off his ear? Or no, he was the Cordelia guy, right? The youngest daughter was the cool one, Cordelia, right?
She was the nice one. Yeah.
She was the nice one, right?
Well, she didn't try to kill him, at least.
When you were working with him, though, with Jim, like, was there tension in creating the album? Like, you wanted to go one way or focus on something and he kept pulling you? Like, I understand that it wasn't a good fit, but like, how did that actually manifest itself? Like, what? I don't know what it's like to produce an album, so I don't know what that interaction would look like.
I mean, he thought I was an arrogant little shit, and
nice.
He was right. He was right. I was. And I was always, I was like the guy who was in charge of everything, and I didn't like letting part of the creative process go to a producer. I wasn't ready, and Jim didn't know how to work with someone like me, and then he was just stoned to the bejesus belt the entire time.
Yeah.
And that's not my vibe either. If I like to smoke a lot of weed, then Jim and I would have probably gotten along great. But I'm not that guy. I'm like the guy who likes to start rehearsing and working at 10 a.m. and go till midnight,
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. So is that that's probably the first time that you were in a position where you weren't the sole like creative lead, right? Like that you had to like give some of that up.
It was, and I did give some of it up, and that's why I say to this day I did learn so much about playing music from Jim. It was just a very unpleasant process. Sometimes learning things is an unpleasant process.
Did you guys go down to Memphis for that, or was he up by
yes,
you?
We were a month plus a few days. We all lived in the Holiday Inn on Union Avenue in Memphis.
Right, so it's probably also really exciting, and then have high expectations and shit not living up or feeling good. I mean, I don't want to project, but like that's,
Yeah, and we're a bunch of like really hyper New York, New Jersey guys, and then we're put down in the South.
Everything's so like molasses.
You're like, Grant, what do you mean 30 minutes? What the hell's going on? You know what, Lo? I tell you what the song should have been is Imogene. That's the one that should have been the single off of the album. And I think, well, I'm glad that it worked out like it did because I'm talking to you right now. But I think that was the one that they missed that should have been the hit.
I've never heard anyone say that before. I've never with that song. I mean, Imogene's just a cop on Black Cow, just like.
Yeah, but if in that moment it would have been perfect because Steely Dan didn't exist anymore.
Right. They hadn't made the comeback yet. That's true.
Kev, you could have been a producer, man. What happened?
I should have been.
Well, I mean,
We'd be bitching about you. He'd be telling a story about, I had this guy tell me to do Imogene. I was like, no, fuck you.
You know what? I'll tell you this. What else is so crazy about the Dickinson story? And Dickinson was our choice. The record label gave us a different choice, and we said no to their choice because we wanted our choice and our person, and we didn't want the record label tell us who to produce the record. And you know who they told us that we turned down? T-Bone Burnett.
Oh, and that would have been right.
Wow.
Well, see, and that's perfect irony because not willing to give up that decision process and making your own choice is what put you in the room with somebody that didn't work out. Right? Like,
Yeah,
it was already before you even got to Jim. It was manifesting that way.
so in that case, you know, the record label, they were right.
Yeah.
No question about it.
All right, you guys want to go into the next?
Let's
Sure.
around the horn. Let's do it.
So I talking about, and Kev, I have your question on here too, but I'm going to steer it in a different direction. Talking about our coping mechanisms last Wednesday for no particular reason. Yeah, Dave. I decided to jump into Christmas. So if you go into our living room, we have the Christmas tree up. We have the lights on the house. I've never done this before Thanksgiving before, but I'm like full-fledged, just merry ho 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 holiday spirit.
You got little ones.
What's that?
You got little ones. They should enjoy
man,
it.
they
as
love
long
it,
as
dude. They're so gung-ho about it. But also, I've not watched any news or cable TV or anything. I've been watching Christmas movies, and I need some recommendations. So first around the horn, we could start Kevin go clock. Is that clockwise? Yeah, clockwise.
Yes, you're going to go clockwise. You're going to go clockwise to our viewers.
Yes. Favorite Christmas movie or holiday? We can include Thanksgiving.
Favorite holiday movie is going to be Holiday Inn.
Oh, all
with
right.
Fred Astaire and
familiar.
Bing Crosby, where White Christmas first appeared, and it's just a fantastic movie, even though it has a racist as shit song for
Yes, it does.
George Martin
Yes, it
I was
does.
thinking that.
or Abraham Lincoln, one of the two of them. But the whole point of the thing is, it's actually set after Christmas, and
Mhm.
Holiday Inn is where it comes from, and that's the opening song. And the premise is this inn exists only on holidays, so they'd have an Easter thing, a Thanksgiving, and at the end it's White Christmas is where that song debuted. So
Mhm.
there we go with more information than you needed.
No more you. No, it's great. What about you, Lo?
Well, definitely for Thanksgiving, I gotta represent my family and my band, by the way, and say Planes, Trains, and Automobiles every
yeah.
Thanksgiving. And I'm notorious in my family for having a few years ago prepared a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles quiz that I now give everybody. You know, gradually over the years, the scores have gone up, I'm happy to say.
Is it hard? Is it like Ruthless, or is it like basic trivia of the movie?
Well, like it's pretty hard. Like
Yeah.
Dale Griffith and Neil Page land in Wichita. Neil Page calls home. Where does Dale Griffith call?
That's it. That is hard.
Yeah,
He calls the hotel,
the Braidwood Inn.
the Braidwood Inn.
Amazing.
And then can you name the conveyance in which they drive to the Braidwood Inn?
In the back. No, is that the
Conveyance.
Picmobile?
It's
They go to the train in the back of the truck, but I think they go in the hoopty, right?
Doobie's Taxiola.
See, I know I can visualize it, but I don't know any of the names of anything. I
Right.
do love that movie though. That's a classic.
Yeah.
It is a classic.
Yeah.
Wow, you got that on lock. T, what about you?
It's hard because there's different movies for different holidays, right? Like Lo said, like
Well, I'm saying
Thanksgiving.
the Thanksgiving Christmas bracket.
Right.
Like I don't want to know your favorite Easter movie right
But you're
now.
mashing them together with two things. Like
Do you want to give me
Thanksgiving.
one for Thanksgiving and one
What's your
for Christmas?
Thanksgiving movie
Right.
then?
That's what I'm saying. Like I agree with
right.
Lo. Thanksgiving movie is definitely Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Like I think that's the main one. And then Christmas, I'm a big fan like of the original Miracle on 34th Street and The Bishop's
Yeah.
Wife. Like those are two of my favorite
The
Christmas
Bishop's
movies.
Wife.
I love that movie. The old one. Oh, I love that movie. So good.
Christmas Carol. The original Christmas Carol is the best.
Yeah, the
The black and
original one
white
is yeah.
That is so creepy.
The
It
Muppet
is
Christmas
like a
Carol
horror
is also
movie.
really fucking good, though. I
Epic.
don't care if it's childish. It is a good
That's
movie.
good. That's
No,
great.
that's classic.
Yeah. I like Planes, Trains, Automobiles also, but I won't say that for the third time. I'll give 3 honorable mention to Mixed Nuts. It's not the best or my favorite, but I feel like it's one that's forgotten about and a really solid
For good reason.
comedy. Probably the best and my favorite is It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, it's a little cliche, but like that's like that one has a lot
You
of
only get to
sentimental
watch it once a
emotion.
year now. It used to be on like every hour for the 3 weeks before Christmas, and then
Well, that's what I
NBC on it.
remember is like
And
with
they
my
show it
mom and I
once-
watching it every day in December, basically. And then Christmas Vacation is probably like the one I
Oh.
enjoy the most.
So problematic. That's
Why?
even
That
more
one's great.
problematic
That
than
one's fun
Holiday
too.
Inn.
Makes you laugh. And I'll throw an honorable mention. I think Home Alone. I like watching Home Alone, the first one on Thanksgiving. That's a great, like, it's one of those comedy. Like, I always like the comedies on Thanksgiving. So it's like I do a double header of Planes, Trains, Automobiles, and Home Alone.
Oh
I'm so
my
glad you brought that
God.
up. I wanted to tell you about this. If you ever have the opportunity to have a toddler, so all right, I'll just tell you what happened. So our 15-month-old just starts saying "uh-oh," right? She drops her milk, "uh-oh," like she drops her toy, "uh-oh." We were watching Home Alone, and that like 20-minute sequence with the 2 burglars, she was literally just standing going, "uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh," because like every little thing that happens, they slip, they fall, they step on the things. It's like it was hilarious. She's just sitting there like, "Uh-oh."
Hey, Home Alone, nice.
All right, let's go. We're gonna go the other way with this one. T, starting with you. We'll keep it Thanksgiving now. Favorite Thanksgiving food? It could be a side, it could be the main course, it could be a dessert. But what food are you having on Thanksgiving that you were looking the most forward to?
I mean, I'm just a turkey stand. Like that's what I look forward to on it. Like real, like I love the turkey and I love pumpkin pies. And for some reason, I don't like pumpkin pies any other time of the year. It's only on Thanksgiving that it makes sense to me. So like either one of those two.
They're heavy. A pumpkin pie is heavy. Not as heavy as a pecan pie, but
yeah. I like cooking them too. I like the way it smells in the house like all day. Like the smells in the house are like some of my favorite things about Thanksgiving.
You do sweet potato?
Yep. Stuffing, mashed potatoes, sweet potato. Like
no sweet potato pie.
Oh, sweet potato pie. No.
Mm-mm.
Have not. Did Kev freeze? Oh, there he is. It was like frozen for a second there, Kev. But yeah. And really, I think the best part is just the smells of everything else cooking in the kitchen and in the house all day. Like that's just one of my favorite things.
Yeah. What about you, Lo?
Well, I love a tasty turkey, but I really get into a really good stuffing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Hell yeah.
you got some mushrooms in there.
Ooh, yeah.
It's carbs, it's salty, it's so satisfying. You know, it's like you eat the leftovers for the next few days. I'm going into the fridge, picking out a little bit of turkey, maybe some Brussels sprouts, and that stuffing. It's just kind of like the glues it all together.
It's kind of nuts that I don't have that any other time of the year. Like for how much? Because you're talking about like I fucking love stuffing, and yet I only eat it one time a year. It's like, why is that the case?
It's not exactly a health food.
I mean, I'm not exactly a healthy guy though, so I can't. I would love that to be the excuse, but that is not the excuse.
But end of the day, it's actually something that if you make it from just stale bread and water and butter and herbs or chicken
Isn't it
stock,
the drippings and shit?
it's a very pure food that you can make at home.
What's the difference between stuffing and dressing?
If
Because
it's
I always hear
inside the
people
bird or
correct
not?
me, and I never know what they're talking about.
If it's inside the bird or not when you cook it,
Is that the only difference?
I think. I don't know.
It's like, people that like correct you for shit, like, oh, it's actually Frankenstein's monster, and you're like, cool, right? Like, I feel like people are like, oh, it's actually called dressing, and I'm like, all right, thank you.
I can get
Yeah.
down with that. I can
Yes,
totally
yes to
get
oysters
down
and
with that.
stuffing. Absolutely.
And
That's
stuffing, I
that-
think too, is one of those things that is like everything leftovers. Like the next day after it's sat for a bit, and everything kind of like really gets together. Heating it up again the next day and eating it, like that's always the best too. Like
If you
Thanksgiving
can get to a
leftovers.
Wawa and get yourself a gobbler,
Oh yeah,
turkey, stuffing, and cranberry
Mm.
on a sub roll.
that shit'll knock you out.
Oh, it will.
Don't,
You'll
don't
be
eat one of those
asleep
if
in
you're
20
planning on
minutes.
doing anything else.
So I'm going to Friendsgiving. I have to go to a Friendsgiving in, I guess, this weekend, the week after, whatever it is. And I got tasked with making stuffing. So I've been trying different recipes. And I appreciate the stuffing love there, Lau. And I'm going to go with mac and cheese because stuffing has been said. Because my kid knocks it out of the park. She uses 7 cheeses, which is probably too many. I think after 3, you can't really tell the difference of what's going on there. But a big, thick, gooey pan with a crusted top of mac and cheese is a gleaming side at the Thanksgiving table for me.
Fuck yeah.
You got to have some Velveeta in there.
Velveeta, she does like blue cheese and Gouda, and she's like asking for stuff. I'm like, I have to go to like another store to get that. They don't
Well, that's
sell
like
that.
then you're really getting some pungent taste in there with like blue cheese on top of like other cheeses. Like it's kind of that's a crazy combination of things there. Like
Yeah. Blue cheese is like that cheese is going to dominate all the other.
dominate the flavor profile for sure. That's funny.
Yeah.
Back to you, Tim.
I'm gonna go with turkey. I always hated turkey my whole life because my grandmother sucked at cooking it. Rest in peace. It was just always dry when I was a kid. But a couple of years ago, I got a smoker, like a barbecue smoker, and I learned how to smoke the turkey. And it is the most insanely juicy, phenomenal way to. Yeah, it's insane.
Slow cook. You got to slow cook.
Yeah, super slow cook, like 6 to 8 hours with the smoker is unbelievable.
And it just smells up the house so good. Real quick before you do the next one, Lo, I got a question for you. Best muffalata in New Orleans. Where's it at?
Oh, well, it was the Central Grocery down on Decatur, but it's not happening anymore. Unfortunately, it's very sad.
That is very sad. I had a couple of those ones for Jazz Fest. We used to always go down there.
Bring it home on the plane. That's something you put in your back pocket and get on the plane, and you're like.
So now what? Now where is it? Now where's the best one?
I don't know. I don't think anyone's risen.
No one stepped up.
Void yet.
Damn.
You just got to buy yourself a jar of the spread.
Yeah.
And get yourself a good piece of bread, and you make it at home.
You make your own. Yeah. Well.
They still sell the spread, right?
They do, yeah.
So that's the key.
That's where, yeah. Because I mean, I always try them out here at sandwich shops, and nobody hits the New Orleans flavor.
You're in
just
LA,
like,
man. It's
well, you got to try. I mean,
generic. I wish I was at the real place in LA. Come on.
Yep.
But I miss like an Italian hoagie from New Jersey.
Yeah,
me
too. I miss everything from Jersey. I miss the bagels. I miss the hoagies. I miss the pizza. We don't have any good pizza out here. It sucks.
Where do you live?
You live in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but I live in the middle of Pennsylvania. Like if you're on the Delaware, you still get bleed over from New Jersey.
Where he lives is in Pennsylvania.
Right. Where you have shit everything. You have nothing good out here. I love Jersey food though.
We went to a cool spot by your house.
Yeah,
it was like the only place that was on a field in the middle of a highway that went nowhere on either end. And
Jersey is underrated, or maybe it's not underrated, but I feel like I've never been anywhere that has the highest concentration of great food. Like the Chinese food there tastes better, the Italian food tastes better.
City. I've been in New York with you.
No, yeah, New York doesn't have as good as New Jersey. I feel like. It's too expensive in Manhattan. You have to
Oh.
spend too much money to get
Are
this.
you saying that
You go to a
Jersey
fucking
pizza-
small town in
Jersey
Jersey.
pizza is better than New York? Is that where you're going with?
100%.
There's
100%.
no question about it, Kevin.
Yeah, 100%. It's not even close.
No, that's the clip. That's the clip.
A
Somebody
slice you
break
get
the
in
time
Manhattan is gonna have been out for too long. It's not gonna be cooked right. It's gonna be taste like crap. I mean, not crap. It's still better than Pennsylvania, but
Dollar
you go to a
slice.
small
I guess
pizzeria
they're
in
not
Jersey.
$1 though.
It's so much
they're
better.
They're probably not $1 anymore in New York.
No. Oh, this is a weird show.
Yeah.
That's
All right,
good.
one more random question. Best side of an LP. Right? Did I get that right, Kev?
That's it. The best side of an LP, not a whole LP, just one side.
I can't really. All right, so I thought about this. I cannot remember, and maybe it's just my age, any distinctive like B-side thing. Like, right, like there's lots of albums I've listened to that have had A and B sides, but I'm from a different generation that doesn't, I don't think of albums that way. So I'm gonna what is it, recuse myself or abstain? I don't know what the
Well, my theory is that when you used to do an album that was an A side and a B side, you had 22 minutes on each side to do an album. And so you put your best 4 songs out on the front side. Your best song probably to open the second side to get people to flip the album. So your best 2 through 5 songs or something else. And I think that was a real standard to go to, like Boston. Side 1 of their first album is 3 songs, but it's 3 songs that you want to listen to straight through.
I don't know if I buy your theory, but I think that's a decent album.
Is that the one behind me? Oh no, I have Peter. There, there's Boston. There we go. with the library sleeve that I bought for $1 at Goodwill.
Great votes in the comments. We got side 2 of Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
Right, Royal Scam side A. I mean,
yeah.
What I would go with, and Lo, I texted you earlier. We were texting about this. Is side 2 of Tattoo You. I could listen to that on repeat over and over again. And it's weird because it's not what the Stones exactly are. And it's a bunch of throw together tunes. Some were recorded much earlier, but it just hangs for me. And Peter Tosh showed up for the Waiting for a Friend video. So it had to be cool.
I've got 2 in my mind, so can I mention 2?
Yeah.
So, and these are just the first ones that came to mind. But first of all, Remain in Light. The 2 sides are so different. The one, and I forget which is the first side and which is the second side, but one side begins with Once in a Lifetime, but it's the other side that has the 3 long songs that.
Great Curve and
Great Curve is the last, and it's Born Under Punches, and then Cross-Eyed and Painless, and then the Great Curve, and they're all so long and so intense and so mind-blowing, and just to put them one after the other like that on that side of an album. And the other one is the first side of Revolver, which starts with Taxman, and you hear John Lennon counting out 1, 2, 3, and it ends with Tomorrow Never Knows and Eleanor Rigby along the way. You know, that's some shit right there.
That is some shit right there. I like Yes, Long Distance Runaround. I think side A had Roundabout on it, and
right. Fragile, the Fragile album. Fragile.
Yeah, the Fragile album. Yep.
Oh,
that one always comes to mind. I think ZZ Top too. I think A side just got paid, had LaGrange on the A side, but then the B side had like just got paid or like Rio Grande Mud and like some other shit on it. There's some.
You wanted all the songs on one side. You wanted all the songs moved to like one side, and then you'd be like, That's all I'm listening to. I'll just
Well,
put
that's when the cassettes came out, or blank cassettes, and you could just make your own A side with just this, like just pick the songs off it that you wanted, and be like, now I have
all
my
the
own
hits.
album,
All the hits.
all the hits, just what I want.
You know what I was thinking, Kev? Because you reminded me of this, but Paranoid from Black Sabbath, that back, like, because the front of that is such like a like pinnacle Sabbath,
Loaded.
but the back is actually like super underrated. Like I always liked, but see, I still did. I only thought about that when you brought it up. I thought of it as a whole album, but now that you mentioned it, there is a very clear divide of like the what. Iron Man and everything they put in the front half, and then all of a sudden it's like a whole different.
Hand of Doom has to be one of the greatest songs about addiction ever written.
Yeah,
that's just, it's so fucking intense. I mean, if you've ever gone down any wrong route, even for a half a second, you can probably appreciate that.
All right, I think that's a good one.
Yes, we got Phil Lesh died. And we're all very sad. And Lo texted me, he said, I got a good Phil Lesh story. So take it away, Maestro.
I was pretty sad about Phil passing away, more so than I actually would have expected to be, because he had obviously lived a long life, and he had some health problems, as we know, and but I had a great experience playing with Phil on these 3 shows we did together with Godstreetwine and Phil and friends, and it was Phil and John Kadlacek and Jeff Chimenti, Jason Crosby, and we did 3 nights at Phil's club, Terrapin Station, and Phil was just so generous, and the crowds were so great. And anyway, the story, which I think really is such a great thing about Phil for me, is on the 3rd day I had such a great time, and I woke up in my hotel room with this idea. Sometimes I wake up with a crazy idea, and I was like,
we all do.
We should do I Am the Walrus. And I was like, this would be great to have this band rock I Am the Walrus. And I was like, I took out a pen and paper, and I was like, made a chart, because can I remember all the chords from memory? Yes, I think I can. I think I have this down. And so I called Phil, and I was like, first I'm like, thank you so much for having us. It's such an honor. It's a great experience, and he's very gracious and gentlemanly, as he is. And then I was like, so let's do I'm the Walrus. and just long silence. And I'm wondering, obviously he's not going to say yes to this. What am I thinking? Why did I call Phil and even suggest this? And I was like, I wrote a chart for it, in case that would help. And finally, after just like what feels like eons of silence, Phil was just like, what the hell? Let's do it.
There you go.
And no one else in that situation. I mean, Phil's got like the entire Grateful Dead catalog and 10 million covers that he can draw on, and no one else is going to go with my suggestion there, especially of such a weird song. But Phil was just like, he saw the adventure in it, and that's what he was, a musical adventurer. And if it was going to be fun and different, he was all in, and just loved that about him, and that's why he'd like to have the bands with Phil and friends constantly rotating cast of characters, because different musicians would bring him to new places, and he was always into going to new places,
Yeah. And
so
that's awesome.
I just
that's so cool.
I thought a lot about that when the day that he passed away, and when someone is gone, you sort of see their specialness. So it's nice that I got to have that, and I'm glad that I called him up.
And it's awesome that he did that. It was very weird with him passing, because like I don't think anybody was surprised in like the very like classical sense of like nobody didn't see it coming, but at the same time it hit really hard, right? Like
you don't expect a mid-afternoon in the work
right.
week.
It's like it's not that you don't expect it, but then you also don't expect it. And when you hear it, like Kev was the first one to put it in our thread, and I thought he was. I don't know why. Like obviously in hindsight, like you want to joke about that
Because you don't.
It's just
believe
one of those
anything.
things. You're like, oh, you're fucking with me. Like that didn't just happen, and right, it's not real, and you don't believe it, and like it's like. He didn't look great the last time I saw him on stage, right? He got basically like, rolled
stumbled,
out.
and they had to bring the stool out for him and everything. But that's okay. George Porter sits down now. How long did the guy from Widespread sit down?
I think that's a different, yeah.
But I mean, it's something that's okay to do if you want to. What? Let me ask you something, Lau. Why do musicians continue on and on and on? Like the guy who there's a jazz drummer who just died. He was 99, and I think he was still playing. Is there something that you're just like, I have to get out there and continue to do this?
Well, I think so. Yeah. And also I think the Dead often talked about, there's a big kind of network and world of people expecting you to keep it going who have jobs because you're keeping it going.
Right.
And so there's that kind of pressure. And I think when you, I mean, none of us are that old yet, but I think when you get there, you fear retirement, you fear inactivity, because that's when people just like,
Fade away.
Do you
Yeah.
remember also? Like apparently Benjamin was saying, did you remember playing late in the evening at those shows too?
Oh,
and by the way, that was interesting too, because we had recently performed late in the evening at our godstreetwine shows, and Phil heard about that, and he specifically requested
Nice
that we do that again. And for us, it was like sometimes we'd bust out a cover, and it would just be for one show or a couple shows back to back. But he was like, I heard you guys did that, and so he really specifically wanted to do that.
That's so cool. That's
Best Paul
man.
Simon album, right? Best Paul Simon album. We
yeah.
talked about this.
Yeah, is Late in the Evening on One Trick Pony?
Yeah, Late in the Evening is on One Trick Pony. It's the first track, I think. It opens the album.
I always knew it from the live version on the concert in Central Park. Before I went back to the studio albums. But yeah, it's a fantastic song. I love playing that.
That's great. That's such a cool story too. That's awesome.
It's a fantastic song, and it's about marijuana. So
it's about music.
It's about music. He smokes a joint in it, but it's about playing music.
He does smoke a joint. You didn't get much smoking joints back in the 70s.
You didn't get as high, right?
You didn't get as high, and it was still illegal most places.
Right.
And speaking of great albums, that concert that in Central Park, I remember when that was televised, like HBO or whatever did it, and then that album came out. That album is fantastic. That whole thing from front to back, you can listen to that thing forever, and it's so good. Like that was such a great concert.
Who's the bigger ass, Simon or Garfunkel? I think Garfunkel is when it comes down to it, but it's just.
I mean, Paul Simon wearing the turkey outfit on SNL. Come on.
All right, we're gonna move on. Lo, you want to give us? Well, we talked about it before, but you had this nice little run. You guys have any more plans coming up, or what are you doing now?
There's another run of shows coming up in March,
Awesome.
And so that's it's 5 towns, I think, off the top of my head. It's Philadelphia.
One more. You're adding one.
One more show.
Five,
From the 4, now you're doing
one.
5. Next time will be 6.
Yeah. And we're recording together and we're writing together.
Nice.
And that last part, by the way, is that we're writing together. That's something that's never happened in the whole history of the band. And, I don't want to, I hope when, a little bit down the road when it's more of a thing, we're not like about to release anything right now, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's great that you guys are writing.
And then next week, as you know, I'm playing this show with Leo Nocentelli down here in New Orleans. So just doing that a little bit.
That's fantastic. No, let me lay this down for everyone. Leo put out an album back, or he recorded an album, never released it, early 70s. Bill Withers kind of feeling to it, right? That's fair enough.
Yeah, well, he always says James Taylor. Like he always says that the big influence on it was James Taylor, Sweet Baby James.
You know how do you know how you make a duck into a blues musician? You stick him in the microwave till his Bill Withers. But so he recorded this album. It came out not too long ago, within the past 5-10 years. And when he does it live, he asks you to come sit in and play his guitar parts from back then when he was the funk god of the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, and they're great guitar parts. And so basically my role in the band is to duplicate his parts from the record so that live he can, I mean, he doubles them sometimes, and then sometimes he just riffs over, you know, the parts that I'm playing, which are more the structure parts.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, and I learned a lot from it. It actually turned out to be sort of a guitar lesson because I learned all the parts by ear as best I could, and then come in playing them for Leo. And
He said, no.
he would show me things that he was doing that I never would have thought of, just like fingering and
right. It's cool to have the resource right there, like the guy to like look and correct you or refine it. That's a really neat, unique experience.
Yeah, and it's
awesome.
It's beautiful tunes.
Did that pay off in what you're doing recently?
What do you mean?
What you learned from Leo? Because like you said, you guys sounded so good. Those 4 shows sounded like you could have played them at the end of a tour back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Well, no, I think definitely. And not just with, I mean, playing with Leo for sure, but also playing with all these musicians down here in New Orleans. We were talking earlier about
Reggie.
By the way, the legendary bassist of the Radiators, if people don't know, and a lot of other great musicians that I've had a chance to play with down in New Orleans. The level of musicianship down here is really unbelievable, and the respect for the obviously the tradition and all that. And Aaron's doing it too. He's playing with Bruce Katz, who is a great blues guy who used to play with Greg Allman. Tomo is continuously playing in Berlin with a lot of different artists doing studio work. And so we're all like having a lot of these different kind of experiences, which we never had back in the day. I mean, when we were together, we were like, it was just God Street Wine. That was tunnel vision. It was all we did. But so, and in a way that was amazing to have that focus. But then, you know, we all know kind of a lot more having played with other people and then coming back to play together, you know.
You guys had a new song. I know that you're pro dog. How come that did not get played live?
So Christy Shot a Puppy was our one release.
Right.
And it was just, you know,
Is that about that governor or whatever, or what's the phrase?
It should have been an encore. You could have threw it on for an encore.
That's funny.
Yeah. And I just heard that story, and that song kind of came into my head in about 10 minutes. And and I was just like on the God Street Wine. Obviously there's a God Street Wine group chat. And I just mentioned it, and then I was writing a song about it, and everyone was like, fuck, let's record it.
That's awesome.
And we did. And why didn't we play it live? I don't know. I think we actually forgot about it by the time the shows came.
Are there challenges with Tomo being in Germany trying to record new stuff?
Well, no, not really, because he's got a studio over there. And he does a lot of session work for artists, and you know, so that's pretty much what he's doing, you know, 24/7 is laying down drum tracks.
So what's the process? You write first to a click, send it to Tomo, and then he puts in, or are you doing the rhythm first? How do you build it up remotely like that?
I'm glad you asked because I could talk about that all day. But so I usually make what I call a skeleton track. With it's a full demo with a drum machine programmed and bass, keyboards, scratch vocals, and everything. Then I send that first to Tomo to get a human drum track on there.
And
And
then build it up from him.
once we got a great drum track from Tomo, then we'll start sending it to everyone else to gradually start replacing my scratch parts with their real parts.
Does he have flexibility? Like, how elaborate do you go with the drum machine? Are you like doing fills and shit, or are you just
Yeah.
getting the basic groove and
No,
transitions and letting
we were
him
just
go
talking
with
the
it?
other day because I'm really a very meticulous drum programmer. But one thing I do is I try to program like he would play if it's something for.
Well, yeah, and you guys have so much history, you could probably anticipate how he would want to play too, right? And how he plays.
Well, not just anticipate, but I've found YouTube videos where I watch what he does and copy them. I put them into my drum program.
That's very considerate of you. That's a very considerate way
But
to
it's
write.
completely open. If he came back and said, "I think this might work better," you'd be like, "Yeah, that does work." If it works,
If it does work better. If it doesn't work better, you'd be like, no, do what I wrote.
And like the tempo, that's a big thing because once the tempos get locked in, and Godstreetwine's a band that like we like to change tempo a little bit. We speed up, we slow down. We don't always like to be locked in. So sometimes we'll have like, the verse is at 92. Maybe the chorus should be up at 94.
Yeah. It's cool that you're not doing it to a click though. The drum machine, I didn't even think about that, but the drum machine's a way nicer way to do that, to kind of get that initial scratch put together.
Yeah, but I mean, there has to be an underlying grid.
Yeah.
There has to be time, and we want it to be loose. So, yeah, and also we're recording some of our old stuff that's never been recorded. We have so many songs that never managed to get into the studio. So, and
if you had a different producer, you might have put different songs on the album.
If you like Imogene, there's a bunch of songs from what I call our really Steely Danish phase.
I love your really Steely Danish phase.
I do too. Is when I really like to write a lot of complicated chords in a song. And there, if anybody knows, there's a song of ours called God Street, which I guess was just because at some point in like 1991, I was like, well, we're a band called Godstreetwine. Maybe I should write a song called God Street. And so I did. And that never got recorded, and we're just working on it now.
We're looking for it.
Actually,
we're looking for it next year when you're playing.
Yeah. No, it's eventually.
So you had an album recently with Reggie, my man from the Rads, come out. You want to throw that out for everybody for a sec?
Yeah, sure. It's an all covers album that I made with my New Orleans band because we basically did this weekly residency gig for about 2 years, and then we
streamed it. I watched for weeks.
Yeah, we streamed a lot of them, and when we stopped doing it, we still play from time to time, but when we stopped doing the weekly thing, I just really wanted to sort of preserve the vibe of the band because I loved the vibe of the band, and so we went into Jake Eckert's place, who was another guy that from
New Orleans Suspects.
Yeah. And we're like, the rules we're just gonna play live takes of songs in the studio, and we're gonna do no more than 2 takes of the same song back to back. If we don't have one in those 2, maybe we'll come back to it.
That's efficient.
And we'll just go on to so we would do two takes of a song and then go on to other songs, and we recorded probably
full band recordings, not breaking down individual
live.
parts.
I'm singing live.
Oh, damn.
Our fiddle player was in the control room.
You can throw the names out because it's Reggie. We know you, and we know that I love the Radiators. But who else was on that record?
So Rurik Noonan, who is a fiddle player here in New Orleans, who plays with a lot of different bands. He's amazing. Daniel Meineke on keyboards, Mark Fernandez on acoustic guitar, Michael Fouquet on drums, and Yeah, that's it. That's 6 of us. And the album's called the Sunday Night Songbook because our residency was every Sunday night.
Sorry, I don't mean to geek out on the studio stuff, but did you have to go back and redo your vocals, or were they able to get a clean track of your vocals singing it in the room?
I redid my vocal on I think 2 of the 14 tracks on the album.
Wow,
which wasn't because of the sound, it was because of my performance. I thought I could do it better.
Really?
But the sound thing is, I'll tell you 2 things. One is we're in the big room, but the drummer was in an ISO booth.
Oh,
Phil
okay.
was in the control room, and the bass player is going direct. So the only amp in there was mine, and it's in a corner behind a baffle pointing towards the wall. So there's really not that much leaking in. And the other thing is there's a plug-in that is amazing at reducing ambient noise.
Room sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagined you're playing live in the room together, because ISOs for me, like, I'm not obviously anywhere near your level. I've only been in the studio a couple of times, but it's very hard to play like live and like jam and do those kinds of things in ISOs. And I'm a drummer, so like I need to be able to like make eye contact and look and like.
Well, we had eye contact. Everybody has eye contact. Yeah, that's very
good.
Yeah,
that's cool. I'm gonna check that out. That's gonna be awesome. Or that is awesome.
The Sunday Night Songbook.
All right,
it's
Reggie.
Only.
And
I
it's
didn't make any.
Reggie.
I was just saying I didn't make any LPs or CDs for that. It's just
Right. All right, one last thing, because we've already gone long and you're okay with it. What about you did 2 solo albums? Love both of them. Anything like that on the horizon?
Yeah, I'm sure eventually I'll probably do more.
But you got God Street right now. You got your band back. You got your band back.
We're very GSW focused right now.
It's fantastic.
And
can I tell you about Red Leo? Used to hang out with this guy named Rob Little. Right? Used to hang out with this guy Rob Little, and he turned me on to you guys. And we called him Red Leo because he was a little red around the neck. And there was a joke about women wanted 2 kinds of men, either a Leonardo DiCaprio that they go hang out with, or they wanted a Harrison Ford like me, who they wanted to start a family with. So we called him Red Leo. But the guy got
Harrison Ford.
The guy got skin cancer, right? And he beat it. And then he got brain cancer, right? And what we used to go, I'm telling him the story of Red Leo. I love Red Leo. He needs his story told. So we go to the hospice and we'd pull him out into the courtyard so we could smoke weed with him and listen to godstreetwine. That's what he wanted at the end.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, good guy. All right, Neil Young minute.
Wait,
Neil
real
Young
quick, I want to give a shout out to Tomo's bass cover or bass head this past year. It's sad that things didn't work out, but I absolutely love that. I saw that on Instagram. I love that you had a voice and weren't, because so many bands were like, oh, we're not making a stance or saying anything. And I don't know if that was like a band decision or Tomo that just did that, but I saw it and I was like, fuck yeah, Tomo, you rule.
He's in Germany though. He doesn't have to worry about the
lucky bastard
coming after him.
You know what sucks? I thought about moving, but I'm an engineer and I don't know metric. And
I'm
literally
moving
the
to
only
Vermont.
place where my skills
to the border.
The only place my skills work are in the States because nobody else uses Imperial or whatever SE. Like I would have to learn anyway.
So New Zealand's out.
Yeah, if I knew an architect today,
dude, New Zealand is hungry for structural engineers right now because they had an earthquake in Christchurch in the South Island.
Yep.
And not that I've looked into this, but I could very easily get straight to residency there.
I had somebody ask me today if I knew an architect, can I throw him your way for a side job?
I'm not an architect.
Yeah, throw him.
I've been talking to this guy for 5 years, like almost every day. He has no idea what the fuck I do.
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
Neil Young turned 79 this week, and they also released his top 100 songs on some dumb rag that none of us will ever read. But One glaring omission for me was nowhere on the list of his top 100 songs was Nowadays Clancy Can't Even Sing, which is probably one of his best lyrics from Buffalo Springfield. Even though he didn't sing it, smartly he let Richard Fury sing it because Neil Young's voice is Krizap for the most part.
I mean, I was impressed they did a top 100 of his. I mean, it was so long you scroll down and then there's a whole other like load more.
Yeah,
after
you had to go to 50
It
more.
was like 2
forever.
full articles. But I will say, I thought they got the top 10 pretty well nailed. At number 10 was Ohio. Number 9 was After the Gold Rush. Number 8 was Cinnamon Girl. Number 7 was Helpless. Number 6 was Tonight's the Night. Number 5 was Down by the River, which is one of my favorites. Number 4 was Cortez the Killer, which is another incredible song. Number 3 was Heart of Gold. Number 2 was Ambulance Blues. And then, of course, number 1 is
Why?
Powderfinger.
Why? Where was Rockin' in the Free World? That has to be a top 3 Neil Young song.
Are we committed to this bit? Do we,
Oh,
Top
we are
do this
3?
every week?
We're totally
perpetuity.
committed to it.
Top 3, Kev? Come on.
Top 3. Rockin' in the Free World is one of the greatest.
It's number 17.
It's an American anthem.
Harvest.
Harvest. I don't know where Harvest. It's on there somewhere.
He's like, wait a minute, Harvest. But you know,
Like a hurricane.
Sample and Hold was on there, and whatever the other one from Trans was that was the single, and I was like, good for them for nodding to that. Hippie Dream was not on there, which is a fantastic song about the end of the San Francisco scene. The wooden
All right.
ships were just a hippie dream.
Neil Young minute just means you just talk about Neil Young for a minute.
For a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Kev always brings him up. Harvest Moon was 30.
We
Harvard
have a
River-
group chat, much like you have the GSW one, and for a while we would always throw headlines, right? Like what we were going to talk about, our set list, and it would always be like Dead or Fish or Radiators or God Street or something. And then for whatever reason, and it always felt out of like left field, Kev would always bring in a Neil Young headline, and it would be very like, what the fuck, Kev?
And
Why
I'm
you
not
always-
that big a Neil Young guy.
You would imagine he was like the biggest Neil Young fan of all time because he just always happened to have a Neil. So we consolidated it instead of having it randomly throughout the show. We just put it all at the
They were like,
end.
come up with something every week.
I'm not certain that we should stick to this bit though. I think the Neil Young minute might be
Come on.
might be up.
Leave it to the chat. The chat likes it.
Yeah,
right.
we'll put it in the Discord. And actually, the one thing I wanted to plug with housekeeping, like, subscribe, all that shit. But the Discord has been picking up and has been a ton of fun. And we had a really good time last week. So if you haven't, the link is in the description. Come hang out with us and chat. It's fun.
Great.
Lo, thanks
you. Lo.
I
Low.
think this
That's
is the
fucking
5th
great.
time that I've talked to you. I love you so much. You're the man.
Anytime, Low. Thank you so much, man. Have a great holidays. Happy New Year, because we probably won't talk to you really until then. So have a great holiday
Merry
season.
Christmas.
Have a great everything. We will see you next year. And
You guys
the
too.
show's in March.
Yeah, hang
and-
out for a sec.
Yeah,
as
hang
we
out
run the
backstage with us
outro.
for a second. And hopefully, Jazz Fest, maybe this year I'll get down there and come see you and we'll go find some muffaladas somewhere.
Bye.
Yeah.
I'm craving a muffalada in case you couldn't tell.
I had no idea what a muffalata was.
Did you Google it?
I did. It looks delicious.
Lots
You get a
of
good one?
Italian meat.
Man, it's good.
You know, it's 10:19. Do you know where your children are?
The glue to the show is the Neil Young Minute.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Dave's like the head of the Kev crew, though. That's not fair.
MC Roach.